Hip-hop music. It ain't nothing like a fist full of cash or a blitz full of the hash that twists like a mustache from end to end, spread it like a rash from talking through your Walkman or at your disco bash. Give me the Tim Rumple, still skin brown, a metal face mask with a built-in frown, a mic to tilt down 100,000 pounds, and see how kilt sound like spilt milk clown. Cocoa butter on a very ashy day, fam. Ray-Bans out on the islands of Cayman, or I break it down for the layman. Band-Aid Soleil. I'm a machine!
Our next semifinalist matchup will feature the Machine Brian Cage and the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne. Both of these men, superstars of Monday Night Raw, and if they are victorious against Drew McIntyre, who we saw advance into the finals, of course one of these men will meet McIntyre in the final matchup. However, if they are victorious, they will head into SummerSlam to face Aleister Black for the Monday Night Raw World Heavyweight Championship. But it's going to take a lot to get there, as both these competitors had a spectacular King of the Ring tournament. Forearm taking down Brian Cage here. Of course, as you saw in the entrances, Pete Dunne, the current Triple Crown champion, and has held that championship for well over a year, ever since he defeated Seth Rollins back at Battleground last year, landing that German suplex onto Brian Cage, which takes him a minute to recover from. However, Brian Cage following it up with a heel toss as he meets Pete Dunne in the corner. Brian Cage, no slouch himself, he is a former NXT champion, now being sent into the turnbuckle. And following it up with a Snapdragon suplex does Pete Dunne. Kick out, however, from Brian Cage early on in this contest. And we saw the extent at which Shinsuke Nakamura, a beautiful Hurricane Rana. For someone the size of Brian Cage, very impressive. As Pete Dunne now looking to get back up to his feet and is met with a clothesline to the outside as this match spills to the outside. And we saw Shinsuke Nakamura against Drew McIntyre going into the sudden death overtime circumstances. Now following it up with the exploder suplex on the outside does Brian Cage. You got to think that these men, knowing that, will try and put away this contest a lot sooner than they saw the earlier contest go. The count right now from the referee is up to a count of 6. As Pete Dunne able to escape that suplex opportunity and land the Snapdragon suplex. A count of 8, Pete Dunne able to get the action back inside the ring. Now going high risk, taking down Brian Cage with a diving clothesline. Now here the cover from Pete Dunne. Of course, Brian Cage, a former NXT champion, able to make his debut for Monday Night Raw in the G1 Climax, expressing his desire to wrestle on Monday Night Raw. You got to think that if Brian Cage were to be successful here tonight, that would set him up not only for a World Heavyweight Championship match against Aleister Black, but in the future perhaps a Triple Crown Championship match against Pete Dunne, having beat him here. Now a standing moonsault from Brian Cage. Not many men have put away Pete Dunne. Now the knees to the back. He has held that Triple Crown Championship for well over a year, taking on some of the toughest competitors here that we have to offer. Brian Cage, however, looking to take Pete Dunne from the apron to the inside with a deadlift suplex, using the second rope for leverage, going for the pinfall here. And 2 count, the hands of Brian Cage. Pete Dunne able to escape narrowly. A kick to the gut here from Brian Cage, as he has just asserted his dominance in this contest. However, Pete Dunne now working his way back up to his feet. Series of strikes from Pete Dunne. Half and half suplex that just folds up Brian Cage. For all that weight of Brian Cage to be coming down on his neck like that cannot be a good thing. However, here Pete Dunne is raking the eyes of Brian Cage. However, is behind the back of the official. Now Brian Cage here looking for the slingshot, bouncing Pete Dunne off of the ropes via his legs, landing that suplex to follow it up. Here he's looking for a discus clothesline. However, Pete Dunne was able to escape, and now hooking up the arm. Beautiful from Pete Dunne, able to work over the arm. And the strength, as we mentioned in the earlier contest, the strength of Drew McIntyre parallels the strength of Brian Cage, and you got to think that working over the arms will help in regards to their utilization of strength. So we saw the torture rack into the backstabber there from Brian Cage. Now Cage locking in the headlock on Pete Dunne. We've surpassed 5 minutes in this contest. Now Pete Dunne working the mount, a vertical base. Elbows into the midsection of Brian Cage. And now landing an enziguri to follow it up. Here now we see Pete Dunne twirling around the arm, looking to snap it back. And Pete Dunne, great at manipulating joints, as we've mentioned before. However, they're unable to capitalize as Brian Cage now stomping on the arm of Pete Dunne. Now going to get a running start here, does Brian Cage. A big splash after he rebounded off the ropes. And a close 2 count there from Brian Cage off that splash. The back elbow from Pete Dunne. Now counter on that kick, and Brian Cage locking in the submission hold. He has the ankle lock here on Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne, well versed in submissions, is able to quickly find an escape for it with those heel kicks to Brian Cage, releasing the hold. Now looking for that forearm quickly as they both got up to their feet, but Brian Cage able to respond. Now stepping out of the way of that springboard attempt from Pete Dunne, the bruiserweight, looking to go high risk. However, Bryan Cage here with the F5. Getting Pete Dunne up in the fireman's carry and landing that F5. Now Cage looking to follow it up with a big maneuver. Now being met with a Snapdragon instead for his troubles. Front face lock from Pete Dunne. Turned into an exploder suplex. Now a diving knee. Believe that knee has busted open Pete Dunne for the time being. And that's the maneuver we saw in the last matchup. Close 2 count. But that is a maneuver that Drew McIntyre utilized against Shinsuke Nakamura, which aided him in serving a victory. Pete Dunne now with a shot to the gut, raking the eyes of Bryan Cage, and now a stomp to the back of the neck. The face of Bryan Cage connecting with the canvas of the ring off that stomp at such a velocity. Pete Dunne now with a forearm strike that takes out Bryan Cage. Now going to look to follow it up with a suplex. The strength of Pete Dunne to hoist up Bryan Cage as such. Now going to look to go high risk. Pete Dunne on the top rope, looking for the moonsault, and he gets it. Now hooking the leg for the cover, but it appears Bryan Cage's right foot was underneath the bottom rope. Now Pete Dunne rolling to the outside to get a quick breather, taking a powder. A smart move by him, as he knows who he's in there with. Pete Dunne is no fool. However, he may have fallen into the trap of Bryan Cage as he lifts him up in the electric chair and drops his face across the barricade. Strikes here from Bryan Cage on the outside. Another exploder suplex that Bryan Cage liking to utilize. Here Cage sending Pete Dunne face first. Once again going to hoist him up. And now kipping up does Bryan Cage. Continuing to work on Pete Dunne on the outside. Exhausting the 20 count here. Pete Dunne with a reversal. Now a dragon suplex on the outside. We've seen Pete Dunne utilize that dragon suplex in this contest. The half and half suplex. Everything to work over the neck of Bryan Cage on the few opportunities that he has had. Bryan Cage dictating the pace for a lot of this contest. However, now Pete Dunne hooking up for the Regal Plex, and yet again dropping Bryan Cage on the neck. Getting a very close 2 count as well for his troubles. Rolling forearm smash. Now wrestling Bryan Cage down to the ground, working him over, stomping on the lower back does Pete Dunne. Now another stomp here. Stomp to the face. And Pete Dunne, merciless in his attack on Bryan Cage. Now the knees to the back. Pete Dunne proud of his work. Now we're going to twist around. Looking here to snap the arm yet again of Bryan Cage. Removing the power from those arms. It's going to be very difficult for Cage to land some of his high strength maneuvers without the use of his arms. However, it didn't prevent him from hitting that clothesline into the corner. Now a taste of his own medicine. Bryan Cage stomping on the arm of Pete Dunne. Now got to get behind him and put him in that rest hold. Looking to slowly wear down Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne able to escape out of it. Sending Cage into the corner now. And he's met with a boot from Bryan Cage. A back elbow here from Pete Dunne sends Cage reeling into the corner. However, a series of reversals on both ends. Now Cage with a knee to the gut. A chop from Pete Dunne. A slap in the face. Now a boot here. Into the X-Plex. The hands of Pete Dunne. Looking for the cover, but thinking better of it. Does Pete Dunne. Now looking to go high risk instead to follow up the X-Plex before he goes for the cover. Elbow drop from Pete Dunne from the top rope to Bryan Cage. As Bryan Cage was looking to crawl over to the ropes to mount himself. Get some feet underneath him. Now stomp from Pete Dunne. Big back body drop from Bryan Cage here. Now a strike to the face, lifting him up in the fireman's carry yet again. Gonna look for the F5. Does Bryan Cage, turning it over into a pinfall attempt, but Pete Dunne, yet again, able to escape. Bryan Cage here, scouting Pete Dunne, waiting for him to get back up to his feet. Gonna lift him up, perhaps looking for the Steiner screwdriver. He calls it the drill claw. And now looking for it. The pinfall attempt on Pete Dunne, but escaping at the count of 2. As we saw how many finishing maneuvers it took to put away Shinsuke Nakamura in the previous match. I don't think that one drill claw will be enough to take down Pete Dunne. I would be right about that. Wow, the strength of Bryan Cage to hoist up Pete Dunne from the ground into a military press position. Spectacular strength. Now the elbows to the leg of Pete Dunne. Of course, Bryan Cage also liking to utilize the Weapon X maneuver. Now looking for the fall on Pete Dunne, but Pete Dunne yet again able to escape. Bryan Cage now taunting for us all, saying he knows what it's going to take to put away Pete Dunne. We've just passed the halfway point of this contest. Of course, 30-minute time limit. Just past 15 minutes in this contest. Now looking to take the legs out, but a reversal here on the forearm smash from Bryan Cage turns it into a lovely butterfly suplex. Great timing there from Bryan Cage, able to slip out underneath the forearm smash and turn it around into that butterfly. Pinfall here from Cage. And kick out again from Pete Dunne. Now demanding kick to the back at the hands of Cage. Gonna look to hoist up Pete Dunne yet again and powerbomb him. I'll tell you, Bryan Cage has maintained the advantage for a lot of this contest, but Pete Dunne, perhaps playing possum, able to get back up to his feet and land a bicycle kick. And following it up with an X-Plex, does Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne, however, not quite done yet. Gonna turn over into the wrist lock. He has the wrist lock advantage and gonna wrench down on that arm. We've seen Pete Dunne use this maneuver to put people away before. Of course, well versed in his submission skills. But it's not gonna work here for Bryan Cage as he's able to escape. Looking to follow it up, does Bryan Cage, but it's answered with a lung blower from Pete Dunne. Looking for the cover here. 2 and oh, close 2 count. Forearm smash from Pete Dunne. Turning Bryan Cage around into the bitter end. 1, 2, very close 2 count. That pinfall was extremely close. And both men liking to utilize maneuvers involving the... Oh, and now a strike from Bryan Cage. Answering back. Series of strikes from each other and Bryan Cage hitting a big boot. As I was mentioning, both men liking to utilize finishers involving the flatliner variant of certain moves. Of course, the Weapon X for Bryan Cage being a gory special into the flatliner. Pete Dunne landing a DDT off that reversal. And now turning Bryan Cage around into a tombstone pile driver. Now wrapping their arms together, landing that DDT on Bryan Cage and looking for the pinfall here. The kick out, however, from Cage will keep him in this contest. Pete Dunne, however, going to work on that arm, putting it to the ground and stomping on it. Bryan Cage here going to bring Pete Dunne exactly where he wants him, which would be out on the apron. However, the reversal from Pete Dunne rolling in with the sunset flip. 1, 2, and a very near fall. The hands of Pete Dunne. Strikes back and forth. Neither man able to get the advantage here. However, Pete Dunne has got Bryan Cage grounded for the moment. Now locking in the Kimura on Bryan Cage. Wrenching back on the arm. And the pressure applied here may be enough to remove some of the strength from Bryan Cage in this contest. A reversal here from Cage. As we are 2/3 of the way through this matchup. Discus clothesline. Missed by Bryan Cage. However, Pete Dunne able to turn it around into that wrist lock. Attempt again. Wrenching on it. He has the wrist control. But will it be enough to put away Bryan Cage? Relinquishing the hold here does Pete Dunne. Perhaps looking for something else. He's saying he wants everything that Bryan Cage has. Answering back with that forearm strike. Missing the clothesline. And now a forearm strike of his own. Gonna look for the better end. 1, 2, and 3. Pete Dunne advances in the King of the Ring tournament, heading into the finals to face Drew McIntyre after a grueling contest with Bryan Cage. But of course, Drew McIntyre in a 35-minute match. That is 15 more minutes that Drew McIntyre spent inside the ring than Pete Dunne. Now here we saw the F5 utilized by Bryan Cage. Cage gave it everything he could in this contest. Had a great tournament, but he's sent home at the hands of Pete Dunne. The Triple Crown champion, successful here tonight. Oh, and here comes the finalist that will meet Pete Dunne in the next matchup. It's Drew McIntyre. And as I mentioned earlier, the flatliner, the poetry in that the bitter end utilizing that maneuver, and now Drew McIntyre using it on Pete Dunne. And this is a heinous attack before their finalist meeting. Of course, yes, Drew McIntyre did experience a longer match than Pete Dunne, but oh, now a pile driver. But Drew McIntyre looking to weaken Pete Dunne before they meet later on tonight in the finals in our main event. And now a pendulum backbreaker at the hands of Drew McIntyre. This brawl has broken out between these two. Pete Dunne able to reverse it somehow. Get him up in the fireman's carry, but McIntyre again able to escape. Forearm smash from Pete Dunne, but it's reversed as McIntyre sends him into the buckle. The referee in the ring trying to reason with McIntyre. The two competitors now on the top rope with a back suplex. And Drew McIntyre really bringing the fight to Pete Dunne before their matchup later tonight. Sending Pete Dunne out of the ring now. Referee really needs to step in here and stop this brawl before it gets ugly. But of course, McIntyre Frustrated that Pete Dunne was able to put away his opponent before he was, and now sending him face first into that ring post. Does McIntyre. Chair shot on the outside now from McIntyre. Oh, but Pete Dunne somehow able to fight back and send Drew McIntyre into the barricade. But a back elbow from McIntyre is going to put Pete Dunne back down, sending him across the outside of the ring with that overhead belly to belly and landing another chair shot. Does McIntyre. McIntyre going to continue the attack now on the outside, grabbing the steel steps from the outside, and Pete Dunne not done with McIntyre yet. Going to look to go after him on the outside here and get hit with the steel steps for his troubles. These two men building hostilities now as McIntyre has him up on the shoulders. Going to drop him face first onto the apron. Now here he sends Pete Dunne back to the inside. The referee really needs to step in here and break up this brawl between the two. But if you were you, would you... Oh, here comes a power bomb on the steel steps. If you were the referee, would you stand between Drew McIntyre after he competed for 35 minutes and is frustrated? And a pile driver on the steel chair. McIntyre vicious in his assault on Pete Dunne. Now a headbutt. No, Pete Dunne answering with the European uppercut as we saw earlier tonight. Perhaps learning from the match with Shinsuke Nakamura, but however, McIntyre able to chop down Pete Dunne. Now McIntyre with the belly to belly into the corner. Now he sends Pete Dunne into the corner here, turning him around. And what could McIntyre be looking for? Oh no, he's going to look for the inverted Alabama slam on the chair. Face first goes Pete Dunne. Now he's wrapping the chair around the neck of Pete Dunne. The ref really needs to step in here and do something to prevent this. These two men will meet later on tonight. The steel steps. Not connecting with the chair. However, he stomps on it, and that'll do it. Choking the life from Pete Dunne. And now a chair shot to the back as McIntyre relentlessly attacking Pete Dunne and dropping the chair on his back yet again. Lastly, McIntyre gonna land the Future Shock DDT.
Teddy bear.
The next contest is an exhibition match, tag team format featuring the Chosen Bros, being Matt Riddle and Jeff Cobb, against the team of Hideo Itami and Samoa Joe, otherwise known as Jeing. Now the reversal here from Matt Riddle. Going to lock in the triangle hold, but we are only seconds into this matchup, so I believe that Hideo Itami will be able to escape, and I am correct in saying so. All these competitors, members of the Monday Night Raw brand, and Samoa Joe being the openweight champion of Monday Night Raw, having aligned himself with Hideo Itami to perhaps help him retain the championship and hold it at all costs. And now this series of very fast kicks from Hideo Itami in the corner. Gonna look for that running slap, but it was reversed by Matt Riddle, who caught him with a boot to the face. However, a boot to the face now is what Matt Riddle receives from Hideo Itami, followed up with a back suplex. Matt Riddle and Jeff Cobb are former champions of the tag team division on Monday Night Raw, having worked very hard to try and get back to that place. Now the tag team here from Samoa Joe and Hideo Itami, working very well together with that Manhattan drop followed by the big boot. Now Samoa Joe with a dragon screw leg whip that's going to take down Matt Riddle and follow it up with a senton. And in the early going of this contest, it appears that Jeing is very aware of the threat inside the ring, and they are working well together to try and prevent Jeff Cobb from being tagged in here, as if they can focus on one man in this contest, it'll definitely benefit them in the long run. Now a half and half suplex from Samoa Joe, and the style of Samoa Joe and Hideo Itami is very vicious. Oh, Matt Riddle, Samoa Joe here, knocking Jeff Cobb off the ropes. Jeff Cobb tries to trip him out, but Matt Riddle was grounded, getting hit with an inverted suplex at the hands of Samoa Joe. Joe here going to whip Matt Riddle back into his corner. And now a tag in to Hideo Itami, going to hold his face in place for the boot at the hands of Itami. And Itami going to follow that up now with a kick to the gut. Brain buster. Hideo Itami now gloating in the presence of the fans, kicking the face of Matt Riddle. Hideo Itami, member of the roster who hasn't had much glory here on Monday Night Raw, now receiving a lot of knees to the back, but perhaps aligning himself with Samoa Joe will bring him some satisfaction, some championships, some big high-profile matches, such as tonight in the King of the Ring finals. However, first he's going to have to deal with Jeff Cobb, who right now has him locked in, wrenching on this hold. Now Hideo is able to escape with those series of elbows to the face of Jeff Cobb. A kick that takes down Jeff Cobb. For a kick from anyone that can take down Jeff Cobb with that force, the combination of Hideo Itami. Very impressive striking regimen from Hideo Itami, who now sits up Jeff Cobb, going to work over his arm in the key lock. Smart strategy here from Hideo Itami, just to work over Jeff Cobb, work over Matt Riddle, try and prevent as many tags as possible. And here Jeff Cobb getting Hideo up on his shoulders and dropping him across the throat along that top rope. And now Samoa Joe able to intervene as Hideo chokes Jeff Cobb out, giving the assist to Samoa Joe, looking for that Hurricane Rana, but Jeff Cobb reversed it into a sit-out powerbomb. And now again, Samoa Joe going to interject himself in this match, hitting a headbutt on Jeff Cobb. Now kick from Jeff Cobb here. Gonna look to run at Hideo Itami, but it's reversed. Now an enziguri, assisted enziguri at the hands of Samoa Joe. Hideo Itami, of course, holding him in position. Now gonna make frequent tags here. Now the opposite way around, we have the Manhattan drop from Hideo Itami, followed up with a big boot by Samoa Joe. We saw that earlier on in this contest. Now Hurricane Rana here from Itami. Gonna look to whip Jeff Cobb into the corner. Jeff Cobb now at the mercy of Samoa Joe. Hideo Itami with a knife edge chop to Jeff Cobb, telling him this is where he belongs. Once again, going to send Jeff Cobb into the corner and make the quick tag to Samoa Joe. These two working very well together. Double hip toss, double kicks on the ground. I've been very impressed with the ability of, wow, a huge Beal toss from Jeff Cobb to just launch Samoa Joe as such. Now left arm clothesline to follow it up. I've been very impressed here in this contest with the ability of Samoa Joe to work alongside Hideo Itami and vice versa. Now here was Jeff Cobb with the powerbomb. Gonna turn around Samoa Joe and gut wrench German suplex. The strength of Jeff Cobb is surreal. Now waiting for Samoa Joe to get back up to his feet, but Joe able to narrowly escape that. Got up Jeff Cobb up on his shoulder and turned him over real quick. Samoa Joe now a little dazed after that encounter. Matt Riddle gonna look for the quick submission on the Achilles lock. But will it be enough to put away Samoa Joe here? And it is not. Joe is able to escape without Hideo Itami intervening on his behalf. Now the pendulum backbreaker at the hands of Samoa Joe yet again. Gonna work on the back of Matt Riddle and send Riddle into his corner. Tag into Hideo Itami here. Samoa Joe now looking for the muscle buster, dropping him down, and Hideo gonna follow it up with a diving double stomp from the top. Hideo looking for the cover here. 2, and only a 2 count on Matt Riddle. To my surprise, the combination of finishing maneuvers there was not able to put away Matt Riddle. Reversal here from Hideo, slipping out into the German suplex. As Jeff Cobb reemerges on the apron. Hideo now in the corner, gets reversed by Matt Riddle. A series of reversals. Now diving in does Matt Riddle, but he misses that opportunity. And another reversal. These two men going back and forth. And it is eventually Hideo Itami on the receiving end as Matt Riddle sending him into the corner, followed up by that kick from Jeff Cobb. And now the legal man, Jeff Cobb, going to come inside. Lift up Hideo for that gut buster. The gut wrench into the gut buster. Hideo desperately trying to crawl to his corner to make the tag to Samoa Joe. However, Cobb not going to let it happen as he reaches him in the corner with these series of European uppercuts. Now going to whip him off into the turnbuckle. Back elbow. Yet again going to send him into the turnbuckle with that European uppercut. And a drop kick to finish him off. Jeff Cobb now looking for that belly to belly, but Hideo quickly able to answer it and send Jeff Cobb into the corner where he can make the tag to Samoa Joe. Now running neck snap followed by a kick from Hideo. Great tag team moves on display from Samoa Joe and Hideo Itami. Samoa Joe hitting the T-bone suplex there. Whipping Jeff Cobb into the corner. And lifting him up for perhaps a Samoan drop, but it is answered by a series of back elbows from Jeff Cobb, who sends Samoa Joe now into the opposite corner. Tag in to Matt Riddle, who puts his feet out and is met with Samoa Joe's face. Matt Riddle now with a series of kicks. One to the face. We saw this being utilized by Pete Dunne in the last contest. And the knees to the back finally. Matt Riddle, however, going to rebound off the ropes and land a senton. If you cast your minds back, Samoa Joe utilizing that maneuver on Matt Riddle in the same contest. Belly-to-belly suplex now from Samoa Joe. And a kick to the face as Matt Riddle able to escape out of it, hit the Boston Knee Party. Yet again, working him over. Hideo Itami frustrated out on the apron at the abuse that Samoa Joe is taking right now. Now looking to hoist him up does Matt Riddle, perhaps for the Bro Stone, but it's reversed by Samoa Joe, who lands his own version of the Tombstone Piledriver to escape out of Matt Riddle's attempt. However, Matt Riddle able to maintain the advantage despite being hit by a Tombstone. Headbutt now in the corner to Matt Riddle. Now he's going to do a face wash, running off the corner and driving that boot across the face of Matt Riddle. Jeff Cobb respectfully not intervening in the business of Samoa Joe and Matt Riddle here. And now the boot that takes down Matt Riddle. Samoa Joe now able to obtain an advantage here in this contest over Matt Riddle. Looking for perhaps that back elbow and gets met with the knees. Now Matt Riddle just dishing Samoa Joe to the outside. And Hideo Itami looking to dive to the inside to take out Matt Riddle, but it appears he missed his target and hit the referee. And that will allow Hideo Itami on the outside now to take care of Matt Riddle for Samoa Joe. However, Samoa Joe able to handle his business as he lands a German suplex. Gonna follow it up with a dragon suplex. And for the Chimera Plex special, he's going to land a straight jacket German suplex to top it off. As now Matt Riddle being sent into the buckle. Looking for the tag here. As Samoa Joe yet again going to look for that muscle buster from the top. Comes Hideo Itami, diving double stomp. Will this be enough to net them the victory here? Samoa Joe surveying just in case Jeff Cobb looks to break it up, but again Matt Riddle is kicked out of that finishing maneuver twice. Samoa Joe knocking Jeff Cobb off the apron just for good measure. Matt Riddle now with a reversal. Reversal from Itami. Turning it into a German suplex, but it's reversed by Matt Riddle. Now the back knife edge chop. Riddle with the exploder into the buckle. Now waiting for Itami to get back up to his feet here. Turning him inside out and a knee strike to the face. The final flash. One. But Samoa Joe able to help Hideo Itami out with the fall. Landing a Samoan drop as well. The tag in here to Jeff Cobb. Hideo Itami's still in trouble after that final flash. Now able to reverse, perhaps playing possum for Jeff Cobb, but he's caught and landed with a huge spine buster. Jeff Cobb now looking for a strike to the face, but Hideo reversing out. DDT. Now Itami whipping Jeff Cobb into the buckle again. And is shoved back by Jeff Cobb. Slap to the face. And a series of very fast kicks. Repeatedly. And now there it is, the face wash. Running that boot into the face. Learning from Samoa Joe. Ducking underneath and then landing a clothesline does Jeff Cobb. Following it up with a shooting star press. The agility of Jeff Cobb to land a standing shooting star press will never not impress me. Following it up with another shooting star press after the European uppercut in the corner. Now the tag into Matt Riddle here. Of course, Matt Riddle's finisher is a play off of Hideo Itami's finisher. Hideo Itami, the innovator of the GTS. Matt Riddle utilizing the bro to sleep. Knees to the back is Matt Riddle. Once again working over Hideo Itami, and the tides have turned in this contest. In the initial going, it was Matt Riddle being worked over by Hideo and Samoa Joe. However, here is Hideo being worked over by the other two. But able to squeeze in a combination here on Matt Riddle. Hideo now lifting Matt Riddle back up to his feet, looking for that suplex, but it's reversed by Riddle into a suplex of his own. And now here goes Riddle with a series of stomps to the chest of Hideo Itami. That will take the wind out of you. Now Matt Riddle gonna look to lift him up for a powerbomb here. Turning it into a fireman's carry instead, and gonna guillotine Hideo Itami along that top rope. But Hideo Itami able to crawl over to the corner and make the tag just barely to Samoa Joe. Landing a kick. Following it up with a powerbomb on Jeff Cobb. And Jeff Cobb able to escape out, landing a forearm to the small of the back. Samoa Joe, however, answering with a back elbow, followed with an enziguri. Tripping at the legs does Jeff Cobb. These two have been these two teams have been very back and forth in this contest. Matt Riddle now asking as Samoa Joe gets to his feet. Now the kicks to Samoa Joe, the openweight champion. Of course, this isn't a championship match as it is tag team. However, you got to think if one of these two, Matt Riddle or Jeff Cobb, are able to land a pinfall attempt over Samoa Joe and are successful, then they will be in line for a championship opportunity, and that tombstone might just be enough to do it. However, Matt Riddle now going to lock in the armbar. Perhaps here, Samoa Joe able to escape out of it with a series of strikes to the face of Riddle. Now an Irish whip into the ropes. Coming back, but Riddle's able to escape. Riddle has had an answer to everything that these two have thrown at him. And here it is the final flash. However, Hideo Itami right there, able to break it up. Just barely. And a clothesline in the corner now from Riddle. However, Itami standing up, but perhaps a bit too soon. Now Riddle lifted up to his feet. Irish whip into the ropes as Samoa Joe lands a snap power slam. Itami now receiving the tag from Samoa Joe to come inside the ring. And Irish whip into the corner as Itami now perhaps looking for a tornado DDT. No, he's going to guillotine Matt Riddle over the top rope and follow it up with something from the top. Oh, a diving knee, but there is no water in the pool. Jeff Cobb now receiving the tag, but gets met with a combination here from Hideo. Spinning back kick to finish him off. And a kick to the leg. Hideo doing good work here against the team of the Chosen Bros. Now calling Cobb up to his feet. What could he be looking for here? Dropping him with that inverted DDT. And another combination from Hideo. Jeff Cobb able to escape now. Take him down with a shoulder tackle. But Hideo now getting back up to his feet, looking for that spinning back kick, but it's countered by Jeff Cobb. Now a series of kicks in the corner here. Hideo calling him up to his feet now. And a clothesline after ducking underneath. As Hideo is met with something that will stop his momentum. Elbow to the point of the head. And now looking to get Jeff Cobb from behind. Inverted DDT. No, he's turned it into the GTS 2018. Whip into the corner now. Hideo looking to get Samoa Joe back into this contest, but Jeff Cobb able to reverse out of it. And instead going to get Matt Riddle back into this contest. Double back body drops at the hands of the two. And now looking for the armbar here on Hideo Itami. And he was able to get the submission before Samoa Joe was able to break it up. But now Samoa Joe coming in and taking down Matt Riddle with that Tiger Suplex. Clearly Samoa Joe frustrated with how that match went. However, the Chosen Bros were able to pick up a victory over the new team of men Jeing. Despite these two muscle busters and diving double foot stomps in succession that they hit on Matt Riddle. However, a good tag team contest to finish off part 2 of King of the Ring. Coming up next, we will find out who will be in the we will find out who is the winner of the King of the Ring tournament, of course. And we have another exhibition tag team contest for you in the next part.